All right, good morning everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Ryan Smith. I'm the Wellness Program Administrator with Employee Development and Wellness Services, and I'm joined today by my colleagues Cheryl Johnson-Ransaw and Tony Pilote. We are going to be recording today's session, so you can share it with a colleague or view it at a later time if you're interested. All of our session recordings do get uploaded to our EDWS YouTube page, so if you're ever interested in checking out previous events, cooking demonstrations, workouts, things like that, we do have that available online. If you've got any questions or comments during today's session, you can use the chat feature built into WebEx, and we'll be sure to keep an eye on the chat. So today's topic is UV safety. This is a very great time of year to be talking about this. I'm sure you have felt that sun on you over the last couple of weeks. It has been very, very warm outside. And while summer is a great time for us to be active, enjoy the outdoors, we want to make sure that we're taking steps to protect ourselves. So today's presentation is centered around what you can do to keep yourself safe whenever you are exposed to the sun. So to start off with, let's talk about what UV rays are. You may have heard of it before, but just kind of a brief definition. UV is short for ultraviolet light, which is a type of invisible radiation. So humans are not able to see ultraviolet light. It's not something that we pick up on. There are some animals out there who are able to see it, which I think is fascinating, but that's not for us. So it's an invisible radiation that comes from the sun. And there are three primary types of UV rays: UVA, UVB, and UVC. And these all have slightly different properties to them. Some of them we get more of them here on Earth, and a lot of that has to do with our atmosphere and the ozone. Some of them are blocked by things on their way in, but all three of them are types of invisible radiation. So let's talk about the benefits of UV rays, because there are some benefits that come from them. So UV rays actually help the body produce vitamin D, which is an important nutrient for bone health. So if you've ever heard people talking about getting vitamin D, one of the sources we can get it from is actually having our skin exposed to the sun. Now there are some caveats here that we want to talk about. So people with fairer or lighter skin are usually able to produce more vitamin D with less time in the sun, while people with darker skin produce less vitamin D because their skin is going to be a little bit darker. But there's a protective effect there as well. So we'll talk about some of the cons of UV rays as well. So the World Health Organization recommends 5 to 15 minutes of sun exposure 2 to 3 times a week for vitamin D. So that's actually not a lot of exposure. 5 to 15 minutes is probably the amount of time you might spend outside just walking to and from the office potentially. So for vitamin D, you do not need to sunbathe or tan or anything like that. That is not what's recommended. Now, there are other ways to get vitamin D. You can get it from your diet. Your doctor may suggest a supplement. So the sun is not a requirement in terms of getting it. But we, of course, also are going to talk about the danger of UV rays. So sunburn is a sign of short-term overexposure to UV rays. So if you've probably had a sunburn before in your life, that is your body's way of saying, I have been exposed to too much UV radiation. It is not good for me. And over time, continued exposure to UV rays can result in things like premature aging. So if you've ever seen people who, their skin can get damaged over time from those UV rays, it can lead to wrinkles. There are things that happen naturally when we age, but too much exposure can lead to you aging faster than you normally would. Skin cancer is a significant issue that comes from overexposure to UV rays. And that is one of the biggest things that we need to worry about, is definitely that risk of skin cancer when we're exposed to the sun. But there are also some blinding eye diseases that are possible. The UV radiation damages not only our skin, but it can affect our eyes too, which is why things like sunglasses can be really important. So those are the three big potential side effects. And something worth noting is that those can affect anyone. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but regardless of, the type of skin that you have or your genetic history, UV radiation can be dangerous to all people, so it's really important that everyone takes precaution whenever they're, trying to be in the sun and trying to stay safe. So let's talk about the sources. I mentioned the sun. That is our natural source of UV rays or UV radiation. But there are actually some artificial sources as well. Tanning beds do have UV radiation in them, meaning that people can experience the exact same effects from tanning beds. You can get premature aging, you can be at risk of skin cancer, and other negative health effects. Some types of lasers may generate UV radiation. That's not really something that most of us will come into contact with that often, in our normal life. But some types of light bulbs actually produce UV radiation as well. So certain fluorescent and incandescent light bulbs, it's a typically a small amount of radiation, not something nearly as strong as the sun, but it's worth noting that there are small sources of it all around us. Now, light bulbs are deemed to be safe over a long amount of time, so that's usually not something that we need to worry about, but it's an interesting point to bring up. So who's at risk? As I mentioned, anyone can have harmful health effects from UV radiation. So no one is immune to this. We are all vulnerable, and we all want to take care of ourselves to protect our skin, our eyes, and our bodies. However, risk is increased for these individuals. So if you're someone who spends a lot of time in the sun, maybe you have a job that has you out in the sun, or a hobby where you're outside gardening or working on the yard and you frequently spend long amount of times out there, that's going to put you at an increased risk. If you've been sunburned, you're at an increased risk. Again, that sunburn is your body's sign that you have been overexposed. If you have lighter color skin, hair, and eyes, it does put you at an increased risk as well. Darker skin, hair, and eyes have a little bit of a protective effect there. Again, it's not enough to take you out of the risk entirely, but those with fairer, lighter skin, hair, and eyes do have an increased risk. If you've got a family member with skin cancer, that family history means that genetically you have a higher risk. If you're over the age of 50, as we age, things in our bodies change and risks increase for certain issues. And then finally, taking certain medications, including antibiotics and birth control, may put you at an increased risk. You definitely want to talk to your doctor about that. And then some cosmetics, so certain types of makeups or skin, like lotions, things like that. A lot of face lotion actually has some built-in sunscreen in it, a very small amount, and that's to make up for the fact that it naturally can actually put you at a higher risk of some of the UV damage. It really depends on the type of cosmetic, but you may see some face lotions with a small amount of SPF on them. So just something to be aware of. So we've talked about these risks, we've talked about the people who are at an increased risk and some of the dangers. So of course we want to talk about how we can properly protect our skin from the sun. Now I'm sure we all know a couple simple things like sunscreen, but I really want to go through the main recommended items from the CDC in order to protect your skin. There are some surprising things on here, and there are also some rules for things like sunscreen that we may not all follow properly. So it's not enough to just use the sunscreen, we also want to make sure that we are doing it effectively. So shade, this one probably seems pretty obvious, but staying in the shade under an umbrella, tree, or other shelter is a great way to reduce the UV radiation that you are affected by. However, we do want to make a note that you should still wear sunscreen and protective clothing when in the shade, because UV rays can actually bounce off of other things. So if there's a reflective surface like water, maybe you're at a lake and you're in the shade and you're feeling that nice breeze, the sun hitting the lake, hitting the top of the water, those rays can reflect off of it and still affect you. So you can actually still get sunburned just by being in the shade. Some other surprising things that reflect the UV rays are sidewalks and concrete buildings. So if you're walking down the street, maybe you're in the shade and you're thinking, I'm good, this building's got me covered. There's a building on the other side of the street, or there's a concrete sidewalk nearby. Those rays do bounce off of those objects and can still get to you in other ways. So clothing. When possible, wearing clothing that covers your skin, like a long shirt and pants, is very beneficial. I know some of you might be thinking, oh, in the summer, I don't really want to wear a long shirt and pants because it's really hot outside. They do make some types of clothing that are specifically designed to have extra UV protection while still keeping you cool. They'll be made of materials that allow a little bit of airflow through, but the material is thick enough that it adds that extra UV protection. Something else to point out is that wet clothes provide less protection than dry ones. So maybe you're at a water park, or you're at the swimming pool, or you're in your backyard and you just kind of want to just cool off, so you spray yourself with a hose, or you're playing with kids or something like that. If you're walking around with wet clothing, you're actually a little bit more at risk than you would be if those clothes were dry. So hats. Hats are kind of an extension of clothing, but not everyone wears them. A hat is a great way to protect yourself. If you wear a wide brim hat, like the one in the picture that shades your head and your neck, it's going to cover your face and protect that skin there, help reduce some of that premature aging. It'll cover your ears, which frequently get sunburnt. A lot of people forget to put sunscreen on their ears, and the back of the neck is another major area that gets sunburned. If you wear a different type of hat, like a baseball cap, make sure to protect your ears and the back of your neck with sunscreen, since you won't have the same coverage that a wide brim hat like this will offer. Sunglasses. So sunglasses are great. For one thing, they can help you see if it's particularly bright outside, kind of dim the lights a little bit, but they protect your eyes from UV rays and reduce the risks of cataracts and some of those other eye-blinding diseases that we referenced earlier. They also protect the very tender skin around your eyes. So when we're talking again about skin damage and wrinkles and premature aging, that skin that surrounds our eyes is so soft, very delicate, and sunglasses can help make sure that that's protected. So sunscreen. This is, for me at least, when I was growing up, this felt like the obvious one. Yeah, of course, we're outside, we put sunscreen on. But I'm always surprised to learn whenever I do presentations like this and read back over some of the rules and recommendations for sunscreen, just how many people don't quite apply it like we're supposed to. So just putting that one layer of sunscreen on at the beginning of the day is not enough to get you through the day if you are outside. So sunscreen, we want to use a broad spectrum sunscreen, which just means that it's going to cover multiple types of UV rays. I'm not sure if you can actually see it on this container here, but at the bottom in the little white text, it says UVA and UVB protection. So we mentioned there are multiple types. A broad spectrum means that it will cover multiple types of the UV rays, which most sunscreens should have that on them. And you want to do one with an SPF, which is sun protection factor, of 15 or higher. So 15 is the minimum. You can certainly go higher if you want to. But something to point out is it doesn't matter how high the SPF is, you still need to reapply it regularly. So putting on an SPF 60 does not mean that you can keep it on for 4 times as long as the 15. It will wear out in the same amount of time. So speaking of timing, you should reapply sunscreen after 2 hours and after swimming, sweating, or wiping off with a towel. I know in my past I have definitely been guilty of that second list of things there after swimming, sweating, or wiping off with a towel, maybe forgetting to reapply. So that is really important. If you're outside working in the yard, you're going on a long walk, definitely every 2 hours reapply. But if you are doing a water activity or you're sweating a lot because it's warm outside, you do need to reapply more frequently because that will remove that sunscreen. And then you also want to make sure your sunscreen isn't expired. Most bottles will last about 3 years, but sunscreen expires faster if you expose it to high temperatures, which means leaving a bottle in the car may seem like a great idea so that you've always got sunscreen with you, but if it gets hot in your car and it's sitting out in the sun, that will actually reduce the effectiveness of the sunscreen and speed up how quickly it expires. So that's something to think about whenever you're storing it. And then the last thing I want to mention is using the UV index. So this is basically like checking the weather. You can use the UV index to see how high the expected risk of overexposure to UV rays is wherever you live. So this is an example from yesterday of the UV index in Atlanta. Yesterday, the UV index was 8.6, which is very high. We are in the middle of summer. That should not come as a big surprise. We can feel that sun on us. And the hourly index is something really interesting to look at. So we can see in the early morning, the risk is almost non-existent or very, very low. But between the hours of about 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. every day, the risk gets much, much higher. And that's pretty typical for just about anywhere you look. If possible, it's recommended to try to avoid the sun when the UV index is very high, and that tends to happen in the middle of the day between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. There's a rule of thumb that some people will use where if you look at the ground and your shadow is shorter than you are, it means that you are at the riskiest part of the day to be in the sun. And that's because the sun is probably directly overhead, meaning it's really beaming down on you. As we move a little bit later in the day, you can see around 6 p.m., the risk drops considerably. You can use that shadow check again, and if your shadow is as tall as you are, or maybe even taller because the sun is beginning to set, the risk is lower, though you can still get sunburned at that point in time. You're a little bit safer than you would be at other points during the day. So UV index is really useful for yourself. If you've got families you're trying to protect and look after, you can use this to assess what the risk is, and you can know the importance of things like finding shade, wearing protective clothing, putting on that sunscreen. So I think this really illustrates right now in July just how important us taking care of ourselves is when it comes to sun protection. So that is it for the UV portion of today's presentation. We do want to cover a couple tools and resources real quick here, just to highlight some upcoming things that we have. First up, I want to mention today is the first Thursday of July, so we are doing our first Thursday health screenings. Today from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m., we're going to be set up in the Urban Life West Exhibit Hall. We'll be doing blood pressure, BMI, and body fat percentage health screenings. We'll have an intern from the School of Nursing helping out with us, getting in some volunteer hours. So if you're interested in just doing a quick health checkup, we'd love to have you stop by. We can chat for a little bit and get you some good health information. So again, that's from 12:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. today. Some additional resources that we offer and that are part of USG as well. We do provide health coaching. So we can do health coaching on a variety of topics, including nutrition, physical activity, and stress management. These are one-on-one appointments that are free for employees. So if you're interested, you can email us at edws@gsu.edu and we can get you on our schedule. We also offer faculty and staff assistance, or FASA. This is an employee assistance program designed to help you navigate any issue or hardship you might be facing, whether it is a work-related issue or just something going on at home or outside of work that's been difficult for you. FASA is here to connect you with resources and help you navigate it. You can email fasa@gsu.edu to make an appointment. You can call the main phone number listed there, or there is an emergency number that's available 24/7 for any crises that may arise. So if you're having an issue that requires just immediate assistance, that emergency number is a good one to call. USG also offers the Key Pro Employee Assistance Program. This is a similar thing that allows you to reach out, get connected with tools and resources to help you with things like financial issues, just stress at work or at home if you're dealing with a conflict, all sorts of different problems. They can help you out with it. You can use the company code USG Cares, and you can call the phone number listed there to schedule an appointment. And lastly, we want to mention the tobacco cessation program. If you currently use tobacco, quitting is one of the healthiest things you can do for yourself, but it can be very difficult. But you don't have to do it alone. For more information, you can join the tobacco cessation program, and you can email edws@gsu.edu. Then a couple of our upcoming events that we want to highlight. Oh, and I actually made a typo there. I apologize. We have Fast Fun Fitness Friday, which will be on Friday, July 8th, not Thursday. So that'll take place tomorrow from 12 p.m. to 12:20 p.m. That's led by Tony Pelote. She is absolutely awesome. She makes workouts that are able to accommodate you and your level of physical activity. They are based around things you'll be able to do at your home office or even at your office here on campus. You'll usually just need a chair and a little bit of space around you, and you'll be able to get in a nice 15 to 20-minute workout, get that physical activity, and head into the weekend feeling great. So we encourage you to check that out with us tomorrow. On Tuesday, July 12th, we will be doing a walk and talk around the Atlanta campus. So we meet at 10 a.m. in order to have it be a little bit cooler, not quite in the middle of the heat of the day. And we meet at Unity Plaza near the Student Center. We'll do a walk around the Atlanta campus and then head back, so just get in some nice physical activity and have some fun conversation with our colleagues. Thursday, July 14th, we'll be doing a live cooking demonstration. I'll be sharing a new recipe with everyone, and that'll be from 12 p.m. to 12:30 p.m. And Friday, July 15th, from 12 p.m. to 12:30 p.m., we'll have a virtual guided meditation session. The last slide I want to share with everyone today is just how to contact us. Our regular office hours are Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. We do have that emergency assistance for crisis situations. Again, it's 24/7 and the phone number is listed there. But for any other contact, you can visit us at our office at 75 Piedmont Ave. We are in Suite 360 up on the 3rd floor. Our phone number is 404-413-3342. And you can email us at edws@gsu.edu. So I will pause here for just a second, and I'm actually going to ask Tony. Tony, did we have any questions or anything that I might have missed today?
No questions at the moment.
All right, so we'll pause here, and I'll hang out on the call for another minute or two, just in case we have any questions pop up. But I do want to thank everyone for joining us for today's presentation. And again, just remind you all that we will be doing our health screenings from 12:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. today at the Urban Life West Exhibit Hall. So come out and see us, get that free health checkup, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.